Welcome to Bokeh, a podcast exploring the ever-blurring lines between the personal and business lives of professional photographers. This is your host, Nathan Holritz, and I'm so excited to have you join me in connecting with photographers and entrepreneurs in the photography industry as we discuss photography, building a business, and still having a life through it all. This podcast is brought to you by Photographers Edit, custom post-production for the wedding and portrait photographer. And now, let's dive into conversation. All right, we're live officially, or as live as we can be as we're recording into a microphone and an audio recorder. But I'm here with my friend Matt Grazier, and we are here at the Inspire Photo Conference, February 2017. And we were just chatting about the conference itself, but it's a privilege to be here, to be part of something that you and your wife created. How many years ago now?
This is our eighth season.
Yeah, eighth year. Is so obviously community driven.
Yeah.
So I want to get into that here in just a second, but tell us just a little bit about, or us, I say us, the listeners of the Bokeh podcast, a little bit about who you and your wife are and what you guys do.
Yeah. Well, Enna and I, we met in college, in art school, literally in photo class. One of our first dates was she came to second shoot a wedding with me. Okay. Which was kind of funny.
Yeah.
And
but that had to give kind of interesting insight into the potential of the relationship too.
It really
You're working
did.
together.
It really did. And then from there I had to sell hard on her, getting her to convince her to move to Boston with me.
Okay.
Because we had only been dating for a couple of months when I was moving.
Wow.
So I sold her on that, fortunately, and we moved to Boston, and I finished my schooling, and we started the studio right when I finished school.
Okay.
And it's just been, a very idealistic-driven journey for us on lifestyle.
And what is that ideal? What is the ideal that drives you?
The ideal is to really work on our own terms.
Okay.
We want to be creative, and we want to have a home where we work. We don't want to be in a lifestyle where we're commuting to a job,
sure,
and working for somebody that's not, that doesn't care about us as people, if
right,
you will. Just, working for somebody who's on the bottom line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the simple idea of creating kind of an overlying mission almost, or what I refer to as a big picture view. I was chatting with a few photographers during the mentoring sessions last night, and we were talking about this idea of establishing a big picture view. It drives what you do, and your kind of big picture view, if you will, is this notion of creating a business that enables you to work on your own terms. And I think that's one of the primary benefits of running your own business, or it can be. The problem is a lot of times photographers get lost in the kind of the minutia, the busy work of just trying to keep up without having that overlying goal in mind. So I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, and actually, the last time you and I saw each other was at PartnerCon, 2009.
2009. Wow. Okay. All right.
It was the last time we saw each other.
Yeah.
And when I was there, Enna and I did a presentation with John and Kim Sanderson from Lancaster.
Yeah.
And the presentation was on being married and working together.
Yes.
And working from home.
Yes.
And during the talk, I actually had the revelation that I never thought about before, was that I'm kind of living out the same lifestyle my parents lived. And subconsciously, I think I kind of built that lifestyle without even planning for it.
Okay.
It just kind of organically happened, because in the back of my mind, that's what I wanted. And by that, I mean, I work with my spouse.
Right.
And we work from home.
Okay.
And like you said earlier, we just kind of set our own terms. My parents are just like that.
What type of business do they run?
Well, my father's a chiropractor.
Oh, okay.
And my mom manages his office and is the X-ray technician.
Wow.
And
how many years have they been doing that?
50.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
About 50 years now. Yeah. So a little under that. It's probably maybe 48, 49. They've been at it for a long time, in their original office still, with our house above it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did they ever speak to, I don't know, 2 or 3 principles that have enabled them to have this kind of success over a long term? Or have you been able to see what drives that?
Patience.
Okay.
Patience. Mm-hmm. Seriously, my mom and my dad are 2 of the most patient people you'd ever meet. And I really think that's their key.
Okay.
They just, when things go bad, they step back and take a breath.
Okay.
And look at it from a distance, and then go back in and tackle it.
And would you say the patience is shown both in the way that they engage with their business and clients as well as with each other, or where does it stand out in particular?
It's universal.
Everywhere. Okay.
Everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're very, they are also very community-driven people. So, I grew up coming home from school, and my dad, on Thursdays, all the chiropractors would take the day off in our town.
Okay.
But they would all come over to my dad's office and hang out and talk about how to help each other.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they wouldn't compete.
Right.
They would help each other. And one of them would go on vacation. They'd all pick up the patients, but they wouldn't steal patients. They'd all come back to the other office. You know what I mean?
That's fascinating.
And they would do things to help each other out. So that.
And is that the norm for that particular industry, or is it normally pretty competitive?
I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know. Every chiropractor I've ever met has been friends with my father, if you know, that I've met in an intimate setting.
Yeah.
And I've met them throughout the entire country, and they're always the same type of personality. But of course, you're going to hang out with people that have similar personalities as yourself.
Sure.
So I can't really judge on that chiropractic community in general, just the people he surrounds himself with.
But that's fascinating because now you've been a part of creating. You and Enna started Inspire how many years ago?
This is our 8th year.
This was the 8th year.
Yeah.
So you had not only had this example in your parents of business owners who created a life for themselves, a business that enabled them to work under their own terms. I love that, how you sum that up. But you also had an example about somebody who prioritized community, which is a great segue really to talking about what Inspire seems to be all about.
Right.
I mean, there's an incredible opportunity for photographers to come and learn.
Yep.
A variety of classes, a variety of topics.
Yep.
That, by the way, isn't really centered around kind of the so-called celebrities
Right.
in the industry. It's more about the education, the value of the education and the connection. There's certainly opportunity for vendors such as myself and Photographers Edit to come in and be able to share our services with the attendees. But ultimately, everything seemed very much geared toward community.
Yeah.
So you had this wonderful example in your parents. Talk about how that translated then to creating Inspire and what was the inspiration behind the Inspire Retreat.
Well, when Enna and I started our photo studio, one of the big keys for Enna convincing me to be a full-time wedding photographer was the discovery of Pictage.
Yes.
Because...
And you and I are both, we're members of Pictage back in the day.
We're alumni. And what I loved about Pictage was the simplicity, the availability of people to buy images, prints online.
Yes.
And that just simplified the whole, because I didn't want to open up the traditional wedding studio and film.
Right.
And we were shooting film at the time. And so up until the discovery of Pictage, being a wedding photographer was very much just a couple a year for people that I knew, or word of mouth for somebody. And then as soon as Pictage came out, we were in. And then Pictage had the pugs, the monthly meetups.
Yes.
And there's this Pamela Price was the pug leader in the Boston area, and she was wonderful. And we'd go to her pugs at her house, and she was a great guest. A great host. And she called us up one day and said, "I'm stepping down from the pug leader.
Okay.
I just have too much on my plate."
All right.
And she asked us if we'd take it over, and we said sure.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So I was a pug leader as well, so we have that in common.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah. So Enna and I were pug leaders for, 8 or so years.
Wow.
And that was kind of the start in us building community in Boston. So we had a really great pug. Lens Pro to Go hosted it. Paul has always been a key part of the foundation of the Boston community.
And I had a chance
Without him, it doesn't exist.
And I had a chance to meet him. Really, really great guy. And
amazing guy.
Very committed to the Inspire conference as well. It sounds like he'd been here most, if not all, the years that you guys have been doing it.
He's been very loyal.
Yeah.
Good friend.
Yeah.
Very supportive. And but the community in Boston was one of those interesting communities where you had key players where if one of them stepped out, you'd almost feel like the community would collapse. We needed everybody in the leadership role. And you're talking about probably like 8 key people.
Okay.
That really held it all together.
Okay.
And they're still involved today, but in different ways.
Wow.
Yeah. And so from that, we became the pug leaders, and then we were going to conferences. We'd go to WPPI, we'd go to PartnerCon, And on a flight home, Enna and I were just talking about what we liked and disliked of all the different conferences.
Okay.
And then we took out a piece of paper, and Enna just started cherry picking. Like, okay, if I could build my dream conference, I would want this, I'd want this, I'd want this, I'd want this.
I love it.
And I was just like, all right, that's cool. And then when every Saturday morning we get in the car and we drive to a wedding. And Enna and I don't shoot local weddings. So most of our weddings involve like at least a 2-hour one-way trip to the wedding.
Okay.
With a hotel room or something for the night.
Sure.
So we get a lot of time to talk and dream while we're driving. And she wouldn't shut up about this conference dream that she had. She just wouldn't stop talking about it. And it just kept like going and going. And that's how Enna is. She gets something in her head and she can't let it go. Yeah. And you have to let her make it happen, you know? So one day in the car, I just said, listen, we're either going to do this or you're going to shut up about it. I mean, I think that was the exact quote.
Yeah.
And she just looked at me and she's like, well, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, let's give it a shot. Like, what do we got to lose?
Wow.
So from that week, we sent out an email. Paul at Lens Pro hosted a little meeting. It was about 10 photographers, all the key members of the community. And people like Carla and whatnot, they all drove up from Connecticut, and we sat down in a circle, and then I pitched them Inspire. And I kid you not, 12 weeks later, we had Inspire with 90 photographers attending. Wow. It was insane.
12 weeks.
12 weeks.
Most conferences are planning a year in advance, right?
You know, it was just one of those things where Enna and I just said, if we're going to do it, we're just going to do it. We're not going to mess around. We didn't have anybody who was speaking on a national level, really.
Sure.
The one exception to that was Melissa Gionis.
Okay.
She came and spoke, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
She was a Boston photographer, and she's a sweetheart. And she came in and she was all in, supporting us. And
that's great.
Yeah, it was great. And but besides that, it was really a lot of trust from the community to come in and listen to these speakers that they really didn't know that well. They didn't hear much about them. These weren't photographers who were putting themselves out on the speaking circuit. These were just very experienced photographers who had great information to share and were willing to share it.
I love it.
And the community bought into that.
Yes.
And that is still the core of Inspire. We're not, I say we, I'm not in the board anymore. It's Enna, Mark, and Eric. So when they're looking for speakers, their number one priorities are two things. One, how well do they know what they want to teach? And two, are they willing to just come and give it all? Like, be part of the community for those 3 days minimum. Yeah. And if we're lucky enough, they're part of that community for the entire year afterwards. So.
And I think, so you meant the first requirement that you mentioned was knowing their topic. It's funny how many photographers, talented photographers that we have in the industry who are presenting, speaking, but don't necessarily know the topic well enough to communicate it, or maybe communication is just not a strength of theirs.
Sure.
And so it's tough to sit and listen. So that is a absolutely vital requirement for a speaker.
Really is.
Not only do they know their topic well, but that they know how to present the information effectively. Yeah. But then the fact that you ask the photographers to be involved, that their so-called celebrity that you see in our industry sometimes doesn't get in the way of connection with people, relationships with people, being on their level with them and engaging in that community. I think that's so absolutely important. And I have to say again, that was the vibe that I got being here. I mean, this is my first time at Inspire. Yeah. Certainly as a sponsor, but also just as an attendee in general. Yeah. And community. I mean, community rang through the whole conference and is really, really powerful. So I can't say enough about that. Kudos to you guys for creating something that's that powerful.
It's cool.
But I would also, for those listening who are looking for a conference to go to and need a break from the kind of commercially driven, celebrity driven conferences that you see sometimes, this is an incredible opportunity. And you guys already announced the dates for this next year. It's February 26th to 28th. Is that
Correct.
right?
Yep.
For 2018.
Yep, in Newburyport.
Which is, by the way, we're literally on an island. I'm looking out the window of my bedroom, and I saw a lighthouse. I mean, that's the kind of beautiful location that we're in.
Great.
So it's absolutely amazing. Can't recommend enough. So thank you again for hosting that. Now, just to get back a little bit to your photography business, wedding photography is your brand, correct? That is what you guys do.
That's my specialty.
And we had a conversation, I think it was yesterday, You started talking a little bit about the fact that you used to be more involved in, I guess, even further destinations. Destination wedding photography was an even bigger deal for your business that was driving some pretty significant revenue.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you said yesterday that, I don't know, really caught my attention because it's certainly important to me as a father of two, and then creating and focusing on a brand, whether Photographers Edit, that is ultimately about freeing up photographers to spend more time with the important relationships in your life.
Right.
You said you hit a kind of a turning point where you realize this business focused on destination wedding photography and being able to go to these beautiful locations and photograph some incredible events. It was interfering with family life. So talk to me a little bit about that. Share with the listeners kind of what that was like to go through that realization and what changes you made.
Yeah, we had lucked out by fortune on having one of our favorite planners refer us to this couple who was getting married at this gorgeous venue down in the Caribbean that was really starting to go after the wedding market. The new ownership of the venue, he saw where the money was. He wanted to bring in weddings. And we were one of the first weddings there after the remodel with new ownership. And because of that, we started getting a lot of weddings there. And then we started getting a lot of weddings elsewhere. We were going to Mexico. We were going to the Virgin Islands. We were going, we went as far as Mauritius, which is off like 600 miles off the southern tip of South Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never heard of it before.
I mean, I hadn't either. When I got the inquiry, I was like, Mauritius, where the hell, I had to look it up, and I was like, this can't be real. And it was this really awesome two lawyers from New York who loved to travel and play golf, and they had a great golf course at the Four Seasons there, and they found us just on internet search and brought us down, and it was awesome. But right around that time, that was kind of the peak of our destination career, if you will, international destination. That winter, I was gone a lot. And Enna was gone with me a lot. There were a few weddings I shot without her, but almost all of them she was with me. And her mom is a sweetheart, and she would come and stay with the boys while we were gone. And what happened was we came home, and our older son, Ollie, who was young at the time, started having a really bad attitude. I mean, and not being mean to other people, but just to myself and Enna, in the sense of, who are you to tell me what to do?
Interesting.
And I don't think he realized it. And he was a long way from being a teenager. But he had that attitude of, I don't want to go to bed right now, and you can't make me. I don't want to eat my dinner, and you can't make me. And there were a lot of tears from him, a lot of fighting. And Enna and I got talking about it, and I said, we're the problem. Number one, I was like, think about it. We just spent 4 months flying all over the world, coming home for a couple of days, and then packing up and going again.
Wow.
And that was how that winter went for us. And I said, the kid just feels neglected, and he doesn't even know that, but he's just mad at us.
Right.
And I said, this just isn't worth it. We sat down, we talked about it, and we decided to change our marketing. And we said, you know what, we're going to take a lot of emphasis off the travel and just put it back into the local region. And if we pick up one destination wedding a year, that's cool. But we decided we'd rather just spend time with our kids more and just be gone 1, maybe 2 days a week on the weekends through the summer, but still be home 5 days a week for them. And it was a lesson, and one that I'm very glad we caught on to early,
And how did you see that affect your family? I mean, did you see an immediate result? Did it take a little bit of time?
No. It was pretty immediate. As soon as we stopped traveling a lot, we kind of, the summer was like every other summer where we were home, if you will, 5 days a week with the boys, and then gone on the weekend shooting. But then when the next winter came, and this is the key, when school started up again and we had to get back in routine of homework and dinner on time and all of that, I was being very observant of it, and to make sure that Ollie was being happy. And he was. It was great. Everything, he immediately just, it was nice. So it was just back to seeing the kid being happy. So,
but yet again, this is a great example of how there's a big idea driving the direction of your business, right?
Yeah.
Rather than you kind of functioning haphazardly, now the priority is my family.
Yeah.
Connection with my family, time for my family, and that drove what you did. How did you change, just so some of the photographers listening in, they may be kind of curious, how do we make that transition in our marketing message? How did you make that change for yourself? Was it on the website, communication with local vendors, or how did that work?
Yeah, it wasn't too drastic.
Okay.
The networking with the local wedding planners was key.
Okay.
I preferred to network with wedding planners than venues.
Yes.
More because I love shooting at different locations as often as I can. I find that exciting. I find it cool. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know where you're going to end up. And so we love working with event planners that also kind of have that same, mentality of like, let's do something exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like they could know the ballroom downtown inside and out and book a wedding there every weekend and be, whatever. Right. I love the event planners who are like, oh, that'll be really difficult to do. Let's make it happen.
That's
they'll
awesome.
put a tent up in a crazy place or something, or build a deck out in the field so they can put a tent out there. I mean, just awesome stuff, and I love that. So,
and I think it's really important too that the wedding coordinator. I know I found when I was in wedding photography myself that the wedding coordinator that's kind of where it all starts in many cases.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, even if you decide to change your price point, for example, as you change your price point, you go from, let's say, $3,000 to $4,000 or $4,000 to $5,000, whatever the case may be. If you're simply reliant on word of mouth referral from previous clients who may no longer be in that market segment or income bracket, you can't rely on referrals from those clients. You've got this wedding coordinator who is quite aware of where your brand is, what it stands for, the price point, and they can refer accordingly, which is really, really powerful.
Exactly. It's so true. And, what I really love about working with the event planners are that almost every year they always ask me for my updated price list because they expect your prices to go up. And I love that. I love that about the planners we work with.
That's wonderful.
And they encourage it, if you will. They're like,
awesome.
We should all be doing well.
Sure.
And instead of being the type of event planner who's like, will you give my client a discount? No, as soon as they do that, I don't want to work with them again because I'm just like, no, I got a family to support. I'm not a wealthy person.
Well, and the fact that they're enabling you to grow your business in that way is really powerful. I know that we worked with a coordinator who would literally come to our office and sit.
Yeah.
Right here, in our office, I didn't have to say a thing.
Yeah.
She was so excited about our business and promoting our business that she would do the selling for me, and they'd book and on we'd go.
Yeah.
But those kinds of relationships are really powerful, and focusing our effort and time. It's easy to get distracted by a lot of busy work. Again, running a photography business, there's so many different moving parts, but focusing much of our effort on those relationships that drive business, such a valuable move. So that's really cool to hear.
Yeah.
Just to kind of close out this focus that you've put out, or the conversation about the focus that you put on connection with family. What does a week look like for you guys? How do you prioritize family and balance that with work?
Yeah. Well, for us, we always try to find adventure time. And it's not something we do a lot of, but we try to 3 or 4 good adventures a year. And by that, I mean packing up the car, hitting the road, going someplace and seeing something, whether it's a road trip down to D.C. Or going up to the mountains to hike or something, or a ski trip,
Yes.
We try to always find a cool ski house for the boys, and do stuff like that. So those are really big moments for us as a family because that's where the stories really develop,
Yeah, the experiences.
The experiences and the things we always laugh about. But on a weekly basis, we're pretty much the boys are now at an age where they're fairly independent. They get themselves up in the morning and off to school on their own, which is just amazing for us,
I'm sure,
Any parent who's raised kids knows that's a milestone.
And school starts so early these days. It blows my mind.
It does, yeah. So they, they'll go to school, come home, and then the after schools are pretty busy. We have Ollie and Enna both do Aikido. So they practice together.
That's so cool.
Sometimes they go without each other. Sometimes they go together.
Okay.
But they do Aikido a couple of times a week. Our younger son, Will, is a hardcore soccer guy. He's on 2 teams.
Awesome.
It's just insane.
It is the best sport, just by the way, FYI.
I'm learning it.
I played all the way into college, so
he teaches
cool.
me. You know, and then I've got just my own stuff going on. You know, Enna's making chocolate in the house. We have a commercial license. That's been a new passion for her.
I got to sample that last night, and it was absolutely amazing.
It's great.
Incredible. What is the website so people can find her
It's
online?
just her name, Enna, E-N-N-A, chocolate.com.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
You absolutely have to check it out. If you have any interest
You can
in
mail order
chocolate. Yeah, and we're not just talking about some run-of-the-mill chocolate. I mean,
No,
there's
it's
a
good.
backstory to this. It's incredible. So I'm sure they can
Yeah.
find that information on the website. But
Oh yeah, and she's got some of the top chefs in the area ordering her chocolate for their restaurants, and it's just flattering. Yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah. So we've got that, and the boys are. Our older boy Ollie is naturally into the arts without being pushed.
Okay.
So he loves to draw and take pictures and do video. So a lot of the time in the week is Ollie actually hanging out with us. So he'll actually, like if I set up the tintype stuff, he'll make tintypes with me, which is awesome. You know, he'll put on the goggles and the gloves and the apron.
Yeah.
And he can make a tintype. And I mean,
that's
he's
cool.
12 years old.
Wow.
And he knows he's pretty great, knows the digital cameras inside and out. So he's got a really nice laptop that he can edit on. And
Okay.
he'll bring it in and hang out, and it's really funny. You know, it's cool.
Well, but the fact that you have that space to, I don't know, you're getting a little bit of work done, but also connecting with your son is really powerful. That's really neat. And you're enabling him too to explore that artistic side.
And
the
I
tintypes, you were sharing a little bit of your experience with creating tintypes, and I think you showed me a few examples of them as well.
Yeah.
Working with even something as big as a 16 by 20 camera.
Yeah,
It's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, well, you know, I did for my birthday, and I got me a workshop with John Coffer, who's really huge in the world of tintypes.
All right.
Very interesting gentleman, a nice guy, and I spent 3 days with him out at his farm. And he makes 20 by 24 inch tintypes.
Wow.
They call them mammoth plates. And
Wow.
I hadn't made one in person, and I still haven't made one. But this other fellow, John, who was there, retired Vietnam vet, really sweet guy, he made some 20 by 24s, and I documented that for them. I had my camera out and took some photos of it. Was his first time.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I really wanted to do one, but I was like, it's a big investment. And I was like, I'm going to wait I'll come back another time when I have more of an idea of what I want to hang on my wall. That's 20 by 24 inches.
Sure, yeah.
You know, which is what the other guy did, actually. He had been to the workshop once before and decided, I'm going to wait, think about it, and then come back and do it, you know. And he made gorgeous plates. It was awesome.
But you've got this, it's a fascinating artistic outlet that you have. So you've got a business to run, and there's, again, a lot of moving parts to running a business, but to have an artistic outlet like that where you're doing something that's a bit unique, actually extremely unique, in fact, it gives you that outlet, kind of take a break from what can seem like the mundane day-to-day activities of running a business. That's really great.
I need it because I was a darkroom photographer starting out. I love the darkroom. And I've always dreamed of having a darkroom in my house. The house that we ended up purchasing is a little too small for a darkroom unless I sacrifice space for the kids. And so I can't even remember how it came about, but one day I was just like, you know, I don't need a darkroom to do tintypes.
Okay.
You know, you can work out. You do need a dark room, if you will.
Right.
But it can be pretty, you know, I use an ice fishing tent.
And you were showing me this mobile setup. It's small enough you can put in the back of your car, right?
Yeah, it all folds. I mean, on the back of a Mazda 3 hatchback.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got my dark room, if you will, the ice fishing tent packs in there, and all my gear, chemicals, and everything. I can hit the road and just make tintypes anywhere. Literally, it's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I have to thank you for making time for sitting down and sharing certainly what you're doing with the photography business, but it captured my attention yesterday when you started sharing about the priority that you put on family and putting that over running a business. And you know, I mean, certainly being able to do fancy destination weddings is incredible. It looks great in your portfolio. There's some financial benefit to it. But the fact that you prioritize family and relationships in the end over that, it speaks so powerfully to, well, your character, and the priority that you and Enna put on community and connection, which is also reflected in this retreat, which has been really incredible. So thank you for taking time to share a little bit about that.
Awesome.
Talk to our listeners about where they can find, first of all, information about the Inspire Retreat.
Yeah.
And then also your photography work.
Yeah. Well, inspirephotoretreats.com is the website.
Okay.
Has all the information there.
Perfect.
Has videos from past years and such, and you can really get a good sense of the conference.
And it's the same thing on Instagram, yes? Inspire Photo Retreat?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
With an S at the end.
Okay,
Inspire
retreats.
Photo Retreats. Yep.
Okay.
And then our work is at grazierphotography.com. It's like Frazier with a G.
Simple enough. And how about on Instagram? You guys on Instagram?
Yeah. Enna has her Enna chocolate one.
Yes.
We have Grazier Photo.
Okay.
And then my personal one is Mattion, Mattion.
Perfect.
Which is I just put a. If you're a Star Wars nerd, you might like it.
No, yes. I love it. That's great. Well, you guys make sure to go online, take a look at what Inspire has to offer. Make sure that you take a look at Matt and Enna's work, including Enna's chocolate. Again, I can't recommend it enough. I was just telling Enna that I'm going to be ordering it to give as gifts to people.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's absolutely amazing.
Awesome.
But thanks again for sitting down,
It was
Matt.
great to see you,
Really
Nathan.
appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to the Bokeh podcast. If you'd like to hear a particular photographer or entrepreneur in a future episode, don't hesitate to email me, nathan@photographersedit.com. The Bokeh podcast is brought to you by Photographer's Edit, custom post-production for the wedding and portrait photographer.